every participant and the judges in. Ishanshi, please begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be starting the event now, but before that, we'd like to give you all certain instructions.
For today's event, Yashanshi and Shrivats are the student coordinators. So if in case you have any queries, you can contact us through the chat box.
Throughout the event, we expect all the participants to maintain the decorum and refrain from doing anything that would disturb the flow of our event. You all are requested to rename yourselves as the team code that has been allotted to you throughout the event.
After you see the order of how you all will be presenting today, we expect you all to be patient and refrain from unmuting while some other participant is speaking to the judges.
Once you see that your turn has come and your team code has been announced and you're invited to present before the judges, you all are requested to turn your cameras on and wait patiently till the judges allow you to start.
Please note that the participants are not allowed to mention their school's name. Wishing each and every one of you all the very best. Good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of GD Goenkan Public School Vasant Kunj, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you. With an aim to mobilize all computer wizards across the country, we are proud to bring to you the second edition of the technology event organized by GD Goenkan Public School Vasant Kunj, the Goenkan Tech Fest. The credit for this goes to our very own Goenkan Tech Guild Society. Nowadays, regularly evolving technology has become an important part of our lives and has become a reason for our growing dependence. Above all, technological advancements have led to the growth and development of our nation as well. We believe debating broadens the intellect and encourages tolerance of other people's opinions. While being in a debate, one is obliged to hear the other side and understand it. And a wise man in such circumstances quickly learns that there are at least two sides to every question, and that truth has many aspects. The connection between humans and technology has continued since ages and has given rise to many innovations. Keeping in mind the significance of both debating and technology, we proudly present to you the event Tech Talk. This is an event which provides a platform to all the techies to debate upon a particular topic and helps participants reap benefits from it far beyond the normal extracurricular activities that it encompasses. Through this event, we hope to create awareness and explore the various perspectives about the given topics.
For today's event, Tech Talk, the rules and regulations are as follows. Tech Talk consists of two rounds, the preliminary round and the final round. The topic for the preliminary round was cyber awareness, the need of the hour. The participants were supposed to send a self-recorded video, not exceeding 5 minutes, presenting their views on the topic. 6 participants were shortlisted and made it to our final round. For the final round today, the shortlisted participants are required to speak live on any of the two topics, blockchain boom or bane, or biorevolution propelled by artificial intelligence. Note that the content must be original and plagiarism would lead to disqualification. Participants would be judged on the basis of quality and originality of the content, and the judge's decision will be final and binding.
Now, we would like to introduce the judges who judged our preliminary round. Rahul Ranveer Shah, and Suraj Bhan Yadav. Rahul Shah, an alumnus of GD Goenka from the batch of 2020. He is currently a sophomore in IIT Delhi, pursuing production and industrial engineering. Rahul was the head boy of the batch of 2020 and is currently a debating representative in college. Suraj Yadav, an alumnus of GD Goenka from the batch of 2017. He pursued his BTech in electrical engineering from Delhi Technological University. He is currently working for the defense business of Larsen and Toubro, which manufacture products for the Indian Army, Air Force, Navy, DRDO, and various other research labs. Dear judges, it was a pleasure having you.
We would now like to welcome the judges for today's event, Mr. Mohit Wadhwa, Mr. Gurpreet Singh, and Ms. Parvati Bakshi. Mr. Mohit Wadhwa graduated with a BTech in Computer Science and Engineering from IIIT Delhi, is currently working as a Senior Applied Research Engineer in the Artificial Intelligence team at LinkedIn. We welcome you, sir. Mr. Gurpreet Singh is a CEO at YEP Education. He is a CCIO, and apart from this, he is also a Google certified trainer, Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, and a Microsoft Office specialist.
He is a postgraduate from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University and aims at contributing to the IT education through good books and value edtech tools. Mr. Singh has been a key member in his previous organization's endeavor in working closely with Google, Microsoft, and Adobe in the education domain. It is an honor to have you with us, sir. Ms. Parvati Bakshi is from the 2015 batch of GD Goenka Vasant Kunj and a law graduate from Jindal Global Law School. She is currently working as a corporate lawyer at Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas Delhi, one of the top law firms in India. During her course of education, she participated in programs at Stanford University, Columbia University, UPenn, Cologne University, Germany, and ISAID University, Barcelona. With a keen interest in disruptive technology, she has founded a research platform called The Digital Future, where researchers work on publications related to artificial intelligence, blockchain, cryptocurrency, cybersecurity, fintech, and the overlap of technology and society. Dear judges, it is a privilege to have you with us today.
Now, it gives us immense pleasure to welcome all the participants who join hands with us to make this event possible. For the information of all present, let's first take a quick look at the order in which the team will be presenting today. Firstly, we have the team with the team code TT005, followed by TT009, and then we have TT015 and TT017, followed by TT020, and finally we have at last the team with the team code TT024. With your permission, esteemed judges, we would now like to invite the first participant of the day with the team code TT005 to present their views.
Requesting TT005 to start.
Thank you. Can I begin now? Imagine a world in which we could produce meat without animals, cure previously incurable diseases by editing an individual's genetic fabric, and manufacture industrial chemicals in yeast factories. Seems crazy, right? But what's even more mind blowing, the foundational technologies that could make all this possible largely exist. Rapid and ever changing DNA sequencing has deepened our understanding of Tools such as CRISPR that are now being used to recode biology to treat diseases or make crops less vulnerable to climate change. This is what we call the biorevolution. A confluence of breakthroughs in biological science and more sophisticated computing data analytics and artificial intelligence technologies has powered scientific responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. Scientists sequenced the virus's genome in weeks rather than months, as was the case in previous outbreaks. Biotechnology permeates almost every aspect of society, and it is growing at an unprecedented pace. This massive growth is thanks to the explosion of big data in the last few decades that allow biotech scientists throughout the world to gain valuable insights, analyze new trends, and make informed predictions. Whereas the amount of data, as well as the dire need to utilize this data for the benefit of humanity, increases exponentially, it has become almost impossible for scientists to successfully harness this vast amount of structured and unstructured data at a rapid pace without making any manual errors. So, how can this indispensable industry continue to keep up with the surge of big data and latest advancements? Well, this is where artificial intelligence comes into play. Revolutionary AI software and machine learning algorithms play a transformative role in effectively harnessing the plethora of data available in this industry and in enhancing productivity, speed, and power for a diverse spectrum of operations. The biotechnology industry has several subsectors, namely agriculture, animal, industrial, and medical biotech, that skillfully leverage the advancements of artificial intelligence technology. Now, all your questions have answers. Need plants with desired characteristics and increased crop yield? Simply program autonomous robots to harvest crops at a much faster rate with AI techniques and develop computer vision algorithms to monitor crop and soil health to maintain yield. Need to improve sustainability of an animal for industrial processes? Use machine learning to predict expression of their genes and make informed decisions when performing artificial selection. Need new catalysts to optimize biochemical pathways for manufacturing? Simply use computer-aided designs and AI to generate accurate molecular structure and chemical formulas. The list goes on. Operations that take 5 to 10 years now only take a couple at most, thanks to AI. Now, can you imagine a world without hunger in which humans could live longer with fewer diseases?
Sorry to interrupt you in between. May I please request you to go a bit slow because online interaction has its own bottlenecks to cover.
Yeah.
So a bit slow, help us.
Okay, sorry. Now, can you imagine a world without hunger in which humans could live longer lives with fewer diseases and farmers could produce more food with fewer resources? With the power of AI harnessed the right way, the biorevolution holds promise to get us closer to it. Thank you.
That was very well expressed. Thank you, TT005. We would also like to welcome our principal, Ms. Minakshi Bhakuni ma'am. Thank you for joining us today. Now, we request Mohit Vadhwa sir to ask questions to the participant.
Hello everyone. Yeah, thanks for delivering this presentation. It was very well presented. I would like, and it's like sort of an important topic as well. So I would like to understand, how do you think like this AI is helping sort of bringing this, reducing the years to for this revolutions? You mentioned 5-6 years it takes generally to sort of prove that, let's say there's a revolution, and with this COVID scenario, it's a pandemic going on, but the AI is helping to reduce that efforts, right? So how do you think like that's possible?
I think the pandemic has kind of emerged as an opportunity for AI, like enabled computer systems to fight against this pandemic. So, like Chinese tech companies now have developed an algorithm that can, detect new coronavirus cases with a CT scan. So, an AI model was developed in the system and it was trained with like a sample of 5,000 positive coronavirus cases. And there was another one that was developed, an AI solution, I think by a Lunit company that offered X-ray analysis for chest, for like simpler management of COVID-19 cases, and that offers like assistance in interpreting, monitoring for the patient trial. So I think AI definitely has reduced the effort that humans have to put in, and it makes it much easier, like I said, to control this explosion of data throughout the pandemic.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I invite Gurpreet Singh, sir, to ask a few questions.
So my question comes from the last line, the last sentence that you have mentioned, explosion of data. With respect to this connect, could you please explain, please dig deeper into it?
So with AI, it becomes much easier to handle this explosion of data. So when I mean explosion of data, I say that, okay, we know that a lot of data is coming in, but how do we handle it and how do we use this data for helping humanity? So with biotech scientists, you can analyze the new trends. And since AI kind of helps us sort it, you can make certain decisions according to that sorted data. So it's not you sitting for like 2 and 3 years just to analyze it. It happens quickly. So you take more time to act upon that data instead of just sorting it out.
Okay. Any live example to connect with this? No, we are experiencing a kind of a standstill situation since last almost 2 years now. So that explosion of data with AI or any other technology, anything.
So, like I mentioned, that for COVID-19 cases, so there was an AI solution for X-ray analysis of the chest for simpler management. So that helped us offer and like interpret and monitor the patient trial, which without AI would take a lot of time compared to with AI. So I think it helps us makes our lives easier during the pandemic, as well as the scientists who are trying to develop vaccines during this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request Parvati ma'am to ask a few questions to the participant.
Hi. First of all, I really liked the way you kind of captured not just one area of AI use, but like also, you mentioned animal genealogy and crop management. So apart from, the deployment of AI in healthcare, because, that's something that's been happening for a few years now, India is also developing a lot on it. What other fields, apart from the ones you've mentioned, do you think AI can be deployed in, at least in India?
I think in India, AI hasn't been developed at such an extent if we look at outside countries. So I think farmers here could definitely use a lot of help with agriculture, biotechnology. So, they struggle to increase crop yields, and certain plants need certain characteristics for them to reach their true potential. So, agricultural AI's help in agriculture biotechnology could help them, like monitor certain crop and soil health, which will help them deploy the machine learning software to track and predict environmental changes that could impact crop yield. So with certain aspects of AI included in that, I think we could definitely make a huge change in the agricultural sector of India.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Coming up with their content is the next participant with team code TT009.
Right. I hope I'm clearly audible and visible, right?
Yes, you may begin.
Thank you. So, greetings to respected ladies and gentlemen. Today, with the provided opportunity, I would like to present my views on the topic bio-revolution propelled by AI. Now, it is imperative that before we begin, we must understand few important terms from today's agenda. First being biorevolution. In very simple terms, biorevolution refers to changing the genetic structure of any living organism in order to produce something more sustainable and enhanced in terms of quality and also quantity to some extent. Moving on to another such important term, AI or artificial intelligence. This is a branch of computer science concerned with building smart machines capable of human processing and intelligence. Now, one might agree that biorevolution and AI definitely have a very symbiotic and interesting relationship. Digging deeper into this, I would like to introduce you to the following merits of AI propelled biorevolution. First being human health and performance. These include gene cell RNA therapies in order to treat or even prevent diseases and also extending lifespan of humans. Considering the current crisis, AI definitely, through its immense data storage and processing capabilities, has enabled rapid introduction of vaccines and deep investigation of both origins and transmission of the virus. Secondly, being agriculture and aquaculture and food. Crops have been genetically engineered and domestically modified in order to enhance yield and nutritional value, along with building up heat or drought resistance in many countries. Examples include mushroom producing leather or even lab grown meats. Third, climate healing. Biorevolution can also play a very essential role in mitigating or even reversing the damage caused to the environment by humans. Fourth, consumer products and services. Some companies in the existing era are already using genetically engineered microbes in order to create biofuels for the aviation and marine industry, and such revolutionary products such as artificial spider silk and other using the process of fermentation. This very well encapsulates the various examples in the modern day which are already being used and how AI has definitely propelled this process of biorevolution. Now, to this ever enlightening biological revolution, there also exist certain limitations, which include the following. First is biology. Biology in itself is very self replicating. So, new genetically engineered genes could cause several health benefits, but at the same time be difficult to control and potentially cause permanent damage to the ecosystem in case of some errors. Secondly, misuse. AI machines being both accessible and fast, there's a great possibility that genetic engineering could be misused by people for adulterated DNA formation, which could further adversely affect the human population in many ways, such as the example of so called man made coronavirus. Third, unequal access to these could create social disparities. Now, if we consider a situation where biorevolution and all its inventions have been made available to citizens, there's also a possibility that different individuals do not get access to it, maybe due to cost reasons or any such. This could further lead to social disparity, whereby it continues to widen the gap between haves and have nots. Fourth, privacy and consent issues. Apart from access, we might also witness some group of people who are not very willing to consent such genetic modifications inside their bodies as a result of perhaps doubt and fear of certain unintended or off side effects of such genetic modifications. Fifth, scientific investment. We must also understand that such scientific experimentations, which requires both biology and AI, they require a lot of money. And there may be...
Sorry to interrupt you, but I guess you need to start winding up. You're exceeding your time.
Right, I'll just do that. Right. So some countries, probably the less developed ones, won't be as willing to pay that much amount of money in scientific experimentation. Thank you.
That was very enlightening. Thank you, team code TT009. Now over to Mohit sir to ask a few questions to this participant.
Okay, thank you, Team TT09, for the presentation. I would like to understand, could you give an example of the climate healing merits you presented?
I'm sorry, my system just hung. Can you please repeat your question?
I'm asking, could you give an example how AI helped with biorevolution and this climate healing example which you were mentioning in the merit section?
Right. So I think recently we have also seen in reports what I've done based on my research. I think I had also come through across certain products that were made by Biorevolution. and these products basically emitted less carbon. So I think that also helps in how in just ecosystem and probably healing the climate to an extent, that carbon emissions are reduced, and henceforth the environment gets its own chance in order to heal on its own.
Good example. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Gurpreet Singh, sir, to ask a few questions.
Nicely presented in a subtle way, Team TT09. Rather, Mr. Mohit has asked what I was planning to ask. I would request you, rather, I would love to inquire, since we being Delhi Heights, every now and then we see this AQI level in Delhi, at least for 1 month, it is raised so high, and then so many issues, health issues, because health comes first. I would uh, inquire some detailed examples wherein you have in a subtle way covered the previous question's answer, but a bit some example or something which can really help in this regard. So
Right.
same topic and with more example.
Right.
AI. Mhm.
So I think in India we have not developed that much amount of infrastructure or the AI-based bio-revolution. We have not witnessed that as much in India. Like we require a lot definitely, but our scientists have definitely not come up with climate solutions, as you mentioned, for the AQI and the pollution crisis in Delhi particularly. But I think outside India, there have been several instances whereby, as I mentioned, there have been products which reduce carbon emissions. And also there has been CRISPR. It is basically a technology that genetically modifies the different biological products, and further, they basically they basically grasp the carbon out of the air and they store that. So this is a byproduct of genetically modified products. So I think if we bring some kind of those products in India, I think it can definitely heal the environment and reduce the carbon emissions or the pollution in Delhi for that matter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Parvati ma'am to ask a few questions.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. So you did mention a lot about, the rewards and risks of AI and biorevolution. I wanted to understand your perspective on whether some of the risks you mentioned, whether they outweigh the rewards you would get from, the benefits of AI and biorevolution. Do you, in your opinion, think it's worth taking the risk of these products becoming either very expensive or being intrusive on privacy, and do we continue supporting the development of such products?
I think I definitely disagree with that, with the statement that the limitations or the risk they outweigh the advantage. Biorevolution definitely has its own set of enormous rewards, including in health benefits, environmental benefits, and probably economic structure. It can just increase the economy in a strike. So biorevolution definitely has its own sets of multiple rewards, but considering the limitations, when I like just stating an example from my presentation, I talked about biology, how it's self-retaining, and there's a possibility that a rapid succession or rapid um, spread of any kind of genetically modified innovations, they can cause health diseases. So I think if we consider the current times, I think biorevolution definitely requires a lot of research, a lot of accuracy in terms of implementation and in terms of execution. So if we consider right now, it is definitely not biorevolution is definitely not an invention that you can just if you just get a discovery, you can simply start implementing it among people. Obviously people have their own different genetic orders and different body systems. So I think it requires a lot of research, elongated research, and it definitely requires a lot of hard work in terms of just investigating of what possible effects could it have. Secondly, also about the other limitations, talking about the social disparities. So I think if we start involving the currently it is only the private science laboratories that are basically investigated into this. But if we start involving government probably in the near future, we can also ensure that these biorevolution inventions, they are made accessible to all and everybody can, you know, just take advantage out of that, and henceforth it can also just eliminate that factor of social disparity between the haves and have-nots. So I think definitely it requires a lot of time, but biorevolution definitely is one of the greatest inventions if we see in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Waiting eagerly to present their views is the next team code with TT015.
I hope I'm visible and audible.
Yes, you may proceed.
Biorevolution is a boon to society, but a hazard to humanity. Warm greetings to all. I'm the representative of team code TT015, and I'm extremely honored to have this opportunity to discuss biorevolution and the use of artificial intelligence in it. The more we get stuck inside our houses, the smaller our worlds get. We need fast and new technology for everything. AI technologies will allow biologists not only to collect, connect, and analyze data at huge scales, but also to build predictive models. This allows faster targeted research as well as untargeted discoveries. For example, the DeepMind team developed a machine learning tool called the AlphaFold. The team trained this program on DNA sequences, including their evolutionary history and the already known shapes of tens of thousands of proteins. Structural biologists and other researchers are already starting to use AlphaFold to obtain more accurate models for proteins that have been difficult or impossible to characterize by current experimental methods like homology modeling based on sequence similarity and alignment. In the case of AlphaFold, before AI, structure prediction from sequence was an intensely time consuming and not to say labor intensive process with little guarantee of getting an accurate result. The new data will still need to be validated and experimentally verified, but the AI tools can accurately predict protein structures in minutes to hours, compared with the months or even years that it used to take to determine the structure of just one or two proteins. For successful application of artificial intelligence principles, there needs to be coordination and collaboration between biological and computational scientists. This collaboration is needed to establish AI leaning more towards biological principles rather than existing machine learning and AI techniques. Advances in computational power paired with massive amounts of data generated in healthcare systems make many clinical problems ripe for AI applications. Recently, other imaging-based algorithms showed a similar ability to increase physician accuracy. In the short term, algorithms can be used by doctors to assist with double-checking their diagnosis and interpreting patient data faster without sacrificing accuracy. To conclude, I'd like to quote Nick Bostrom. Machine intelligence is the last invention humans will need to make. Thank you.
That was excellently said. Thank you, TT015. Would Mohit sir like to ask a few questions?
Hey, sure. Yeah, thanks for presenting. Very well presented, and you like took a great example of the research and discovery by DeepMind, the AlphaFold. I would like to like, since you just mentioned one example, could you give one more example where sort of AI at scale, like AlphaFold was sort of developed and now sort of open source at scale also. So could you give any other example which you may be aware of?
I think that in case of biology in like AI in biology, I'm afraid I don't have like I mentioned the AlphaFold. I don't have like the name, but AI is often used in bioengineering, cognitive psychology, and it's like a very emerging field, and it's also very useful. So many biologists tend to want to inculcate the AI aspect into their researches.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over to Gurpreet, sir, to ask a few questions.
Yeah, nicely presented, Team 015. You started with a quote and you concluded with a quote. And your first quote was, "It's a boon to society, but it's hazardous to humankind." So, can you please explain this a bit more?
Thank you for your question, sir. I mentioned that biorevolution is a boon to society, but a hazard to humanity. So, like I mentioned, if AI is integrated into many different fields, not just biology, like as a matter of fact, but when we integrate AI, while the society prospers, there's also the uh, reduction of job opportunities. So it's and then slowly you will find that in many different aspects, in factories or labs, slowly the machines start replacing the humans. So it while it creates new opportunities in the artificial intelligence sector, it's ultimately a hazard to humanity because of the threat it poses to our daily lives, to our jobs. So that's where I was going with that.
Okay. Okay. It's just the matter of fact that we have to upgrade ourselves, we have to change ourselves. It may not be that hazardous to humankind as we think it would be. So, thank you for answering this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Over to Parvati ma'am to ask a few questions to this participant.
Thanks for the presentation. It was actually very interesting that you mentioned, physicians and doctors using AI to deliver, better, records and prescriptions, for example. That's actually, a lot of activities, a lot of companies in India are currently actively working in that. And I personally know of people working in that. So it's a very good example to take. My question is, I'd actually like to know, how would you like to be involved in the future with AI and biorevolution? Because you did mention that it's hazardous, and you answered that question. But I want to know. I'm curious about what would you like to do in the future with biorevolution coming and becoming a little bit more popular.
I believe that in the future, regardless of what field or profession we choose, especially for like our generation, AI and like computers, artificial intelligence is going to be integrated in every field. So even if I choose biology in my future, or if I go to some entirely different field, there is going to be always it's going to be a part of our lives. So I did mention that it was hazardous to humanity on a very large scale, on a very like big picture sort of perspective, and if we look at the world as a whole, I do agree that there will be like tremendous advancements, and I would love to be a part of that, because this is such an up and coming field, and it's also the future. So I believe that one way or the other, it's going to be a part of all our lives one day. And it's like Gurpreet sir said, that it's always better to embrace change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, judges. Next in line is the participant with the team code TT017.
Right. Can I start?
Yes, you may proceed.
Perfect. Thank you. Innovation is the key to a bright future. With that, I, a member of team code TT017, would like to present my views on blockchain, boon, or bane. Blockchain, a relatively new technology, offers nothing but a technique to store your data in a decentralized manner. It is a distributed ledger technology which can be used to record and track anything. I believe that before we move on to the advantages or the disadvantages, I believe that it is very essential to understand how this technology works and its structure to be able to rightfully decide whether it is a boon or a bane. In simple terms, blockchain is nothing but a chain of blocks which contain information or data that the users put in. So each block comprises of three things. Number one, the data or information. Number two,
the block's fingerprint, known as hash, which is generally an alphanumeric long code, and the number 3, the hash or fingerprint of the previous block, which connects each block to the previous one. Here, you can see an example of the initial 3 blocks of a blockchain. Now, if someone tries to alter or tamper with the data in any one of these blocks, the hash or the fingerprint of the block will change. However, the successive block will continue to have the old hash of the previous block. Now, this will make the entire blockchain invalid. Hence, it is next to impossible to alter or tamper with the data in a blockchain without anyone knowing. And that brings us to the advantages of blockchain. To begin with, blockchain offers a way to secure your data. The features of a blockchain make it immutable and open for all. Anyone can become a member of a blockchain called a node and can view all the data or transactions present on it. Each node has a copy of the entire blockchain on their device. Hence, it is transparent as well as distributed, which brings us to our second major advantage. A blockchain is distributed and thus decentralized. Instead of one central authority, there is a network of computers managing this blockchain. Each node has a copy of the entire blockchain on their device, and these nodes, some of these nodes are miners who check if the data entered by other users is authentic or not. This distributed structure protects the system from corrupted nodes and makes it very efficient, which brings me to my last point. Blockchains are very efficient and are resilient to any type of failure, since a blockchain is not affected by problems in the individual computers which together comprise it. Hence, I strongly believe that blockchains are a boon. However, some people still might argue that blockchains are either in the early stage, can lead to misuse and invasion of privacy, or lead to wastage of resources and energy. All I would like to say to them is that one, blockchains are in the early stage but are developing. They do not invade privacy as everyone on the system remains anonymous. And third, that while they consume high energy now, they might not in the future. And that is why we need them to develop and we need to be aware about this. Blockchain technology stands to revolutionize the way we interact with each other, and it will turn out to be very beneficial. Thank you. That was all for today.
That was well articulated. Thank you, Team Code TT017. We would request Mohit sir to pose a few questions.
Thanks for presenting. It was a wonderful presentation. Could you also sort of list down some of the disadvantages and like energy consumption is one of the sort of a disadvantage of blockchain. Could you argue from that side as well when you are saying that people should start using blockchain? Do you think like energy consumption could be an issue in future?
Well, so I stated out as a disadvantage that energy consumption can be considered a disadvantage. However, as of now, I believe that they're also in the early stage and we need them to develop. While they may use high energy now, you need a large number of miners, you need a large number of devices. In the future, anything is possible. As I said, innovation is the key to a bright future. If we keep innovating, if we keep developing the blockchain, there might be a possibility that this energy consumption reduces in a significant way, which might benefit us. Hence, I think this is a thing which can be easily removed, and that is why we should start using blockchains. So while I consider it a disadvantage in the short term, in the long run, I think blockchains are feasible because this disadvantage can be removed with the developments that we have in the field of science and technology. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Sure. And could you give like two examples where you have read or seen blockchain technology being used?
Sure. Okay. So the first example is obviously Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, which are basically based on blockchain. So the inventor of Bitcoin, which is Satoshi Nakamoto, I think that's the name. This anonymous guy had invented this technology based on blockchain. So that is one example which a lot of us currently use. Another example is the records that are stored. So a blockchain is basically used for storage and so that your data can't be changed and remains protected. So another example where a blockchain can be used is the storage of records. This can be in the field of healthcare, this can be in the field of education. Let's say we take the example of hospitals, or there can be an entire blockchain which would have a record of each patient's medical records or whatnot. Similarly, in the field of education, there is in India specifically, there is a lot of forging of documents. There are fake documents, and it becomes difficult. So if you have all of your educational records or achievements stored on a blockchain, it makes it difficult for anyone to be able to alter it, and that stays there. So these are two examples which impact our daily life and which are beneficial for a lot of people out there. Thank you.
Very well answered. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now over to Gurpreet, sir, to ask a few questions.
Nicely presented, 017. Uh, my question to you is, no, you have given an example of the financial transactions and Bitcoin and using blockchain at hospitals, education, schools, and all. Now, we live in India, which is a huge country. And every now and then, you see elections and voting happening, be it a general election or smaller election, a huge data that get transferred from one party to other and campaigning and all, and on the top of that, huge chunk of funds they get wasted. So can you connect blockchain with this election process, voting process, to make it easy? Since no the main, as far as I understand, the key point over here is it holds the data in a very secured way. So do you see this as an solution to this problem of solving wastage of fund, and in such a big country where elections and everything happen every now and then?
Okay, sir. Thank you for your question. So I think it's an example of how blockchains can be used in voting as well. You talked about how this keeps the data secure and how a large chunk of money is wasted in elections and campaigning and whatnot. And there are malpractices as well. To answer your question, I think that since a blockchain keeps the data immutable, and since it is a distributed section, it can be used in voting. But a model that I would like to propose for now is that for now, India is a diverse country. Not all the people are aware of blockchains, and that is why we need to make them aware. So until there comes a time that we can make people aware, or we make devices available to all through which they can access these blockchains, I think it would be difficult for us to hold elections. But that is obviously a plus point, that this voting is an area where blockchains can be used. Actually, an example is Sierra Leone. They had used blockchains for the voting process, and while it had turned out to be beneficial, there's a huge difference in Sierra Leone, a small country, and India. So a model for now is that we first make people aware. Second, we have a way to provide devices or make blockchains accessible to all in the short run, and then think of all of this, which will reduce our money and reduce all the malpractices that happen as well, since you can't change your vote once it has been casted. Hope that answers your question, Rohit.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Over to Parvati ma'am to pose a few questions.
Thanks for the presentation. I think you definitely explained blockchain pretty well and very succinctly, and it's easy for other people to understand. Because of that, I'm going to ask you slightly more deeper questions on DLT.
Okay.
Can you tell me what you understand by a public key and a private key?
Sure. So basically, you have an email ID and you have a password. You can consider the public key as your email ID and the private key as the password. So when you have a public key, that public key is visible to all the other nodes on the blockchain, and they can use it to see if this user has done a specific thing or this user has done this. However, a private key is the one that you use to, let's say, log in to your blockchain ID. That private key is only known to you, and that private key is the one which you use to access the blockchain. So while a public key is available to all, it's like a username that you give to someone. Let's say my username is xyz@gmail.com. So my username would be my public key, which would be visible to all, and the private key is the one which I have, which is like a password for me. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just had one other question, connecting to Gurpreet's question on deploying blockchain in voting. So, you mentioned about how the first step or agenda would be to educate people about blockchain and so on and so forth. But one thing we've realized is sometimes it's better to just, create a product, put it out there, and let people figure it out. If we take the time and energy to actually educate each person about blockchain, I don't think we're going to, like, it's 1.3 billion people. Can you imagine explaining blockchain to someone who hasn't yet, passed 12th grade, or who hasn't even had a proper, full 12-year education? So, what do you think about education and explaining such complex technologies to such large population? Do you think that's really a feasible way to go about it in the short term?
Okay, thank you for the question. So there was a time when we had paper ballots in elections, right? Then we moved on to EVMs. That was a transition. So similarly, this can be a transition from, let's say, EVMs to blockchains. EVMs were beneficial because there might have been malpractices that had been happening with the use of paper ballots. Similarly, I believe that we should move on to blockchains. Now, this might take a short amount of time, but we must progress where it will help us, right? So that, I think that answers your first question, that why do we need it, and how would we move on to educate people? We educated them about EVMs, not educated. We gave them knowledge and they understood. I think that we can do that with blockchain. I think it might be a bit difficult for us to explain the intricacies, the various intricacies that blockchain have. Let's see, the proof of work mechanism, the consensus mechanism, and whatnot. However, if we provide them a way to do this, I'm sure they'll understand and move on to do this. Second, about education and making people aware how that will be a cumbersome task and how it might not be feasible, right? So I think in a world where we learn about all kinds of stuff, this is something pretty interesting that students would want to learn themselves. When you talk about students up till 12th grade, we can teach them as per their grade. So we teach them lots of things in CS in 11th and 12th. This can be a part of that. Not exactly CS, but it can also be a part of general knowledge. And if you have a thing such as blockchains for voting, as you have EVMs for voting, I think people will want to learn about them, since voting is something which impacts them, since they choose their representatives through the process of voting. I knew about EVMs as a kid. I'm sure that in the coming years, if we have a blockchain, my kids will know about blockchain for voting. So I don't think that's an issue there. But I do get your point, and there might be problems in the short term, but we will benefit in the long term, and that is my take on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we would like to invite the next participant with the team code TT020.
Can I begin?
Yeah, sure, you may proceed.
Our world is built on biology, and once we begin to understand it, it then becomes a technology. These few words by Ryan Betancourt truly add value to our topic today. The usage of living cells to make products is closer to us and our needs than we think, and day by day it is being applied in our daily life even more. Have you wondered how the food we get from crops is strengthened and made more nutritious? The new normal that we have adopted, the use of vaccines. Have you wondered the importance of that zero point 0.2 ml of crystal clear liquid? The answer is biotechnology and the revolution it is bringing with it. The modern biotech is a broad branch: human, environmental, industrial, animal, and plant. And it helps us fight hunger and disease, produce more efficiently, and reduce our ecological footprint. But one of its most crucial propellers would include the application of artificial intelligence in biotech. Whether it's imitating the real world or making sense of real-time data, in the recent decades, AI has played a significant role in increasing the efficiency of a wide range of industries. Could it be a game changer? In 2018, Sanofi, a global biopharmaceutical company in France, worked on building an AI solution that would automate medical literature review. And after 3 months of the project, they recognized that utilizing a software reduced the review time from 13 minutes per paper to about 1 second per paper. Reviewing scientific information is fundamental to everything scientists do. So solutions like these are making it much faster, simpler, and much more accurate. Another example would be firms using AI techniques to develop and program robots that handle important agriculture tasks, like harvesting crops at a much faster pace than humans, as well as helping in tracking and predicting various environmental changes like weather. This helps in monitoring crop and soil health. It is also believed that it can be used to streamline drug discovery and development. And soon, using AI is going to be the rule and not the exception for how we discover drugs. These are just a few examples, and the list can go on and on. But what we can work on is changing AI's image of being a costly affair by using its ability to make supply chains more flexible, mostly to evaluate vulnerabilities identified, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, which is reduced costs and fully leverage human talent and intelligence. And another challenge of data privacy could be tackled by implementing strong laws and policies. As it is said, the price of innovation does not need to be the erosion of fundamental privacy rights. From the time 1990, when Carl Ericke coined the term biotechnology, to 2013, when the first bionic eye was produced and gave hope to the blind people worldwide, to now 2020, when biotech innovations lead the fight against the pandemic. Biorevolution has helped improve our lives and the health of our planet. It is the now and it is the future. I hope I was audible because the bell rang.
Yes, participant, you were audible.
Yes. Thank you.
That was quite wonderful. Thank you, TT020. Would Mohit sir like to ask a question or two to this participant?
Thank you for the presentation. So you mentioned that about the privacy, right? So could you talk about how maybe this advances which are being made by AI could also be misused in this revolution?
Yes. So the enormous data that companies feed into AI-driven algorithms are they're subjected to data breaches as well. And AI may generate personal data that has been created without the permission of the individual. And so data privacy could be used to, like, implementing strong laws and policies could help tackle this problem.
Any other tech way of handling this problem?
Because small and mid-sized organizations struggles a lot when it comes to adopting AI technology, as it is very costly. So like even big firms like Facebook and Apple also allocate a separate budget for it. So maybe making it a little less expensive and making supply chains more flexible could tackle that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Gurpreet sir to ask questions.
When it comes to data explosion, big data and handling of data, the privacy is one of the most critical point comes over there. And every now and then, the companies that you have mentioned, they are already accused of data breaches happening every now and then, and all these cyber crimes. When it comes to data, we always read and witness that it is going to be the next world war. They say will happen not because of fuel, it will be because of data. So keeping in view that privacy as the most important concern, how this AI in this field of bio revolution can help that?
Could you please repeat your question once?
My question, I'll make it even more simpler for you. You mentioned data explosion, big data. You meant big data. With the help of AI, how the privacy of your data, my data, can be safeguarded?
Okay, so the sensitive information that AI algorithms use could be archived or destroyed after its purpose is served. So
That way they can help save.
Nice
Thank
and
you.
crisp. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would Parvati ma'am like to ask a few questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. You spoke a little bit about supply chains, right? And I just wanted to understand what exactly you meant by flexibility in the supply chain. Because we understand that, AI being deployed can, help different people along the process of, supply chains, be it the consumer, be it the producer, and the people in the middle, right? But when you mention flexibility, what exactly do you mean by that?
So basically, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, it reducing because people have lost jobs or having a problem with their income. So reducing the costs could help to fully leverage human talent and intelligence, and because AI seems very futuristic and it seems very like a costly affair. So reducing the costs could help.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, we would like to invite our last contestant for the day with the team code TT024.
Good afternoon. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes, you are. Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, Stephen Hawking, a pioneer in the science field. How was his brilliant mind able to communicate with us? That's right. He used assistive technology. Aren't we all fascinated by Iron Man's suit? I know I am, but let's not digress. So, bridging the gap, artificial intelligence meets biotechnology. Well, it's actually an old bridge that was projected back in the 1950s by Alan Turing and then constructed in the 1970s. So it's safe to say we're on the other side now. Good afternoon once again. So today I'm here to uncover this domain of culmination of AI and biotech and also take a step beyond COVID and healthcare, because I think we all seem to forget that biotechnology also includes various sectors such as agriculture, genomics, animal, and the ability of bio to seep into anywhere plays its role here. So now, artificial intelligence. It is the power of modern computers, their ability to collect, store, and access large amounts of data, combined with the advancement in technology. AI, it's the big algorithms learning from the big data sets. And now this big data helps in analyzing, make predictions, and gain valuable insights, which further lead to speedy processes and which have propelled such astounding advances in the biological field. What was imagination 50 years ago today is reality. Now, some of the examples include drug designing and manufacturing, very prominent at the moment, synthesizing DNA, RNA, and proteins, such an example is for AlphaFold, and then 3D printed organs, radiology, predicting the progress of cancerous tumors, and we now have wearable robots that enable disabled people to grasp objects, and also prosthetic limbs that are directly connected to our neural system, and I'm very proud to say this, are being made in our very own country. So now whatever it is, you'll find some sort of link with AI today. Additionally, there is a dire need for the acceleration in crop improvement, because the coming years we're going to face problems feeding our world's population. Therefore, optimizing in vitro plant tissue culture and also teasing apart the intertwined forces between the environment and genetics, which drive plant growth, resilience, and crop yield, have all started. Now, last Friday, scientists took a bunch of human brain cells in a petri dish and taught them to play a video game. Believe it or not, it took the cells just 5 minutes to learn how to do so, whereas it would have taken AI about 90 minutes to do this. So, AI still isn't at par with us just yet. But realizing the full potential of AI in this bio-revolution is going to help deliver the next generation of cancer and immunology medicines. This is truly the future of our world. One of the noteworthy benefits of AI is that it helps cancel out the manual errors and any possibility of so, and also provides far better accuracy than conventional approaches such as mouse models. So AI enhances productivity, speed, power, efficiency, and precision. Now, moving on, the cost of decoding the human genome has reduced from $2 billion back in 2002 to just about a few $100 recently. Now, this process took about a month 2 decades ago, can be accomplished in a matter of 60 minutes. This union of AI in biotech is an entire wave. Fortunately, it hasn't crashed yet, but that doesn't mean it can't. I like to believe that there are always limitations and disadvantages to everything in this universe. Subsequently, AI has its drawbacks as well.
Participant, I would request you to please wind up. You're exceeding your time.
I'd like to conclude with a statement by Nick Bostrom. He's a Swedish philosopher who said, "Machine intelligence is the last invention humanity will ever need to make. It can lead you thinking to the possibilities of what is to come." Thank you so much.
That was indeed exceptional. Thank you, team code TT024. We request Mohit sir to ask a couple of questions to this participant.
Thanks for the presentation, Team TT024. I think it was very well presented and you covered the breadth and depth very well. So I especially like that part. You covered almost everything, so I have very few things to ask. But could you give? I have just a question, and I would like to know your thoughts about it. Let's say there is a robot which is being, let's say, used for medical use, and there is some error which happens, let's say due to some flaw. Who do you think should be held responsible for these errors? Is the company who's building it, the organization using it?
Thank you for the question. So I think we're the ones who created these robots. So the sole responsibility sort of lies with us as well. So I think it's natural, the cause of blaming ourselves, because maybe it was a once in a blue moon sort of problem that occurred in this robot, but we gave out the responsibility ourselves to the robot to do this procedure or whatever they're doing in the medical field. So I think we can blame it on ourselves, because end of the day, a couple of years or 100 years from now, if anything goes wrong with AI or anything in robotics, I think we're the ones to blame. We're the ones who've given birth to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Requesting Gurpreet sir to ask some questions.
Yeah, it's beautifully presented, Team 024. Just a quick query. What's the mouth model that you had mentioned in your presentation?
Sorry, sir, which one?
The mouth model I get.
So it's basically, I was saying that AI has given us a new sort of way to sort of test our new coming sort of, we use mouse models a lot, we still do, but it's like it cancels out that we don't need mouse models anymore, and we're finding new ways that are much more accurate than mouse models.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We request Parvati now to ask a couple of questions to this participant.
Thanks for the presentation. It was very enthusiastic. And you did bring up a lot of topics about healthcare. And I wanted to understand what kind of inspired you to focus on 3D printing and cancer research and, all these other things you mentioned about prosthetic limbs. Where did you draw this inspiration from?
Well, good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you. So especially today, I think so many of us have gotten, 10 times more aware about biology and its true meaning in our world. And now biology sort of seems to have its arms wrapped around everything. We sort of live on it. Well, we actually do. It's all about us only. So all of these things, prosthetic limbs, radiology, 3D printed organs, what these are doing is helping us to overcome such a big problem, which is healthcare. Healthcare, well, according to a few studies, it is said that biorevolution is responsible for creating 45% of the betterment in our suffering because of healthcare. So I think since 100 years ago, since most of us, if we were ill, we had no, option to save us, because there wasn't such advancement in anything back then. But now, because of the advancement, we're able to save lives. And I'd like to say again, Stephen Hawking, he's a big inspiration here, ma'am. His mobility and speech difficulty, he had it. But even though he had that, because of such advancements in technology and biology as well, he was still able to give us such amazing, amazing theories just because of that. And I think we all have to inspire throughout that and learn that we can use such stuff for the betterment of our world and the betterment of the coming lives. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, participant, and thank you, ma'am. This brings us to the end now.
We would like to invite Mohit sir to say a few words.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone involved and for organizing this event, and thanks for inviting me. I think it was a wonderful event, and the both topics which are being covered in this event are sort of very thoughtful and very important. And the people presented on both the topics, so it was very good to see to hear the thoughts of the people and the advantages and the disadvantages, both pros and cons. So overall, I learned a lot also, and I think it was a very nice event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we invite Gurpreet Singh sir to share his observations about the event and the participants.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It was a wonderfully coordinated and managed event. And to be very honest, it has added, no, whenever I interact with the student, it adds to my knowledge base. So you all have been so magnificent with your topics, the clarity with which you have explained the research work. I know, no, before appearing any kind of debate or something like that, it takes a lot of research time and perseverance. You all were amazing in that, and I congratulate you for coming here and being a volunteer participating, because only the participants, only the ones who plunge into it, they gonna win. And those who think that they need more time to prepare, they may never be prepared 100%. So I congratulate each one of you. You were all very, very good in your with your clarity of thoughts.
Thank you, sir. We request Parvati Bakshi ma'am to share her insights.
Hi. I'll take a couple of minutes extra in the closing because, I was very excited to be a part of this event and I was very thankful for this opportunity. So I myself come from a medical background. So a lot of the topics today were something that I could relate to because both my parents are doctors and my father is also working in the AI and medical space. So a lot of the things the participants were discussing today, I was familiar with. So that was one very interesting thing. And it's very nice to see that since the time I was in school, or, the other co-judges that we have, since the time we were in school, it's nice to see that, tech clubs have become a popular thing and students in 11th and 12th grade are able to capture and explain this information, which is generally considered very complex, and people who are already, experienced professionals aren't able to do the same. So the eloquency and, quality of topics and presentations today was fantastic. I would like to encourage them to, go beyond just biorevolution. I know it was a topic for today, but seeing the enthusiasm, I think you guys can definitely do a lot more in looking at AI, blockchain, Bitcoin, whatever cryptocurrency, digital assets, and explore, the depth of all these technologies and how it's impacting us day to day. COVID has been one example of how we've seen AI develop in our country, but actually, there's a lot happening in India that we're just not aware of because it's still very small right now. There are a lot of organizations, international, local, national level, who are undertaking projects in creating electronic health records or, making the system of land registration easier. Crop revolution and all of these things are things we are familiar with because, we're a farmer country, we're an agricultural country. But in other spaces, in finance, in law, we're already using, AI on our day-to-day basis. So definitely think about, in the future, how you can take AI, blockchain, advanced technology, how you can be a part of the system, whether it's on the research angle, whether it's on the data management angle, whether it's educating other people about it. whether it's about how to implement it on a day-to-day basis on a cost-efficient manner. So very excited, and I do hope I can, stay in touch with some of the candidates, because I personally have a, platform where we do research, and I'd love to have some interns for that. But thank you for the organizers for this event, and thank you, participants.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, we request our respected principal ma'am to share a few words of motivation.
Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Hi,
ma'am.
everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, how do I motivate you? You people are such a source of motivation for me. All these terms of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and everything, these are the things that we are learning from you people. And there is so much, the way the world is changing, the speed at which technology is changing, it's tremendous. And I feel very nice, though COVID was a very bad thing to happen to mankind, yet it gave us an opportunity, all of us, to kind of come on the same page, technologically speaking. So many of us who were, kind of outdated, we are quite in tune with the times today. And we understand all these terminologies that you people use. So I feel very fortunate that we are living in this era and we are getting to witness this fast changing world. I remember when the people would talk about artificial intelligence in the early years. It was always taken as a kind of infringement into somebody's private space, because whatever you were doing, your actions were being watched. I mean, I remember my first experience was when I was traveling and I happened to look at the Google Maps, and then suddenly this thing popped up, that recommended that going by what my choice of food was. So these things were popping up that your kind of food is available on this particular restaurant in the neighborhood. And I was like, wow. A part of me was impressed, and the other part of me kind of felt very watched, that somebody is kind of continuously watching and monitoring me. And this can be very eerie in a way. But I think this is the order of the day now, and you cannot escape all these surveillances, so to say, direct or indirect, and we'll have to learn to live with it. And to some extent, it's for our good, so long as the technology is used for our benefit, for the larger good of the mankind. Nothing more beautiful than that. But I am also a fan of some sci-fi movies and everything. And I lately, somewhere, not very lately, sometime back, I heard this conversation between two robots and how they say that the earth would be a better place without humans. Though they're right, they're correct, yet I feel quite scared that in case actually a day comes when these robots are more intelligent than us and they're more powerful than us, then we'll be at their mercy. As of now, we are right at the top of the food chain, and everybody else is, the entire creation is at our mercy. So in that sense, we are kind of ruling the planet. And if the tables are turned, it can be very bad. It can be very nasty. It can be very scary. So those things could be in the future, may not happen. Yet these are the questions that keep cropping up. Nonetheless, advancements in technology are always very enticing and always very stimulating to the mind and the heart. And I do hope that you children will get to see the beauty of everything that the mankind creates, and the beastliness of this and the ugliness of this is wiped out. That'll be beautiful. So thank you so much, children, for lovely debate. And I want to thank both the judges, Mr. Mohit, and if I got the name correctly, Miss Pallavi, or Parvati. I'm sorry, one of the two names. So,
ma'am, we have Mr.
thank you.
Gurpreet also.
Mr. Gurpreet too. Sorry. So thank you so much for judging the competition. The children have performed very well, and I thank my team for organizing such a lovely event. I witnessed a few of these during the week, and each one has done so well. So I thank you all wholeheartedly. And I thank you, youngsters, for leading the way. It's beautiful to be led by your own students in the vast arena of knowledge of a different kind. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, students. Thank you, all the participants and the judges. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your enlightening words.
Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
With that, we have come to an end of this event. We would like to thank our esteemed judges for evaluating the participants and giving their valuable inputs. Best of luck to all the participants for the results, which will be declared during the closing ceremony to be held on 21st January at 12 noon. Thank you all for joining in today. It was an effort worth putting it together, and we are sure you all enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are ending the meet.